Guys, we've officially entered the tail end of the year, and I've seen a few videos popping up about how to prepare for the new year, how to prepare to have a great 2024, and all of them are stressing the importance of starting now. But I think the danger in starting to prepare for a new year now is that some people will just go straight into planning. Honestly, if you spend the next couple of months, the next few weeks planning for 2024, you're wasting your time. Planning is the easy part. Really, it's figuring out what to plan that will bring on the breakthrough that you've been waiting for. For me personally, I've done so much this year, and I feel like it's easy to get caught up in the, okay, well, like, how am I gonna take this a step further? But I also feel like I'm burning out. I feel like I'm running out of ideas. I'm getting tired more often. I wanna lay around and watch TV more, and some of that is just the season that we're in. It's fall and approaching winter. But I think for me, the smartest decision would be to listen to that, like listen to what my body is telling me, and giving myself and my mind the space to figure out what the right next thing to do is and what I really should focus on in 2024. I think the hardest part of doing something like this is it can seem so unstructured and you're not sure where to start, which is where the method comes in. For the remainder of the year, I'm gonna be implementing this creative process called the method. It comes from this book I read called The Greatest Song, and it's basically a parable about 5 simple practices for maintaining your creativity and success in your career, creative pursuits, and your life. So the book is about a fictional character, Jake Stark, and Jake Stark was a hit songwriter in his early career, but he's someone who today we would consider washed up. He's not really writing the top songs anymore. He's running out of money. He doesn't really feel that creatively inspired, and he also doesn't feel really close or connected to his friends or family. And when we meet him in the book, he's let go from his publishing company that he's been at for years. When this happens, an old songwriting friend of his reaches out and explains to him that he was in a similar uninspired place in his life a couple of years ago before he joined this other publishing company called The Row. He feels like ever since he joined The Row, he's been at his all-time career and life high, and he's been able to maintain it over the years, and he attributes it all to the method. The Row wants to sign Jake, but in order to do so, he has to go through a trial period with 5 writing sessions, and in each session, they introduce a new piece of the method. I love Jake Stark as a main character because he's a healthy cynic, and at first he does not believe in the method, but over his 5 writing sessions he realizes how much his life is turning around so quickly, and by the end he's totally drinking the Kool-Aid. So I'm gonna share the 5 principles of the method as they're explained in the book, and then I'll also share how I'm implementing these principles into my life. So the first principle is creative collaboration. Jake is introduced to this principle in his first writing session, and he has a writing session with 2 other writers. Now, Jake doesn't typically like writing with more than 1 other writer because that means he has to divide up the royalties for the song in more ways, essentially get less money. But what the writers at The Row tell him is that they try to write the best song no matter how many people it takes, because if you write the best song and it charts high, you make more money. And so it doesn't really matter if you have to divide it up a lot of ways because everyone is getting more money. The other thing that Jake grapples with is how to actually participate in creative collaboration. He finds, as most of us probably do find, that you want your ideas to shine and you want your ideas to be heard, but really what the point of creative collaboration is that he finds is supporting the best ideas no matter who they come from and letting them run, even if it means that your ideas aren't heard or chosen. For me, I've seen this come up at work. You guys know by now that I'm a brand strategist, and a lot of what I have to do is coming up with ideas, but sometimes it's hard to come up with ideas on my own, and I have to put my pride to the side and reach out to my coworkers and say, hey, would you be open to bouncing ideas around or helping me talk through this, or I want to know your thoughts, how would you approach something like this? And I actually did this for a project I was working on a couple of weeks ago. I was stuck on this on my own for weeks, and through just talking to one of my coworkers about it and bouncing ideas around, for 30 minutes, I got farther in that project than I did in the last 2 months. And after that experience, I started collaborating with more of my coworkers because I realized that in the end, the work product is better when we put our minds together. It's not that you have to do everything with everyone, but sometimes truly putting your brains together and putting your own ego to the side, not needing to be the one that comes up with all the best ideas, is just how you make the best stuff. In my content creator space, I hope to be able to apply these same things by bouncing ideas around with you guys in the comments or videos, or also my friends, being able to talk through video ideas with people who may not make YouTube videos even, and just get those ideas flowing through talking with other people. In his next writing session, Jake learns about the second principle, which is filling the well. Now, Jake is kind of an old head. He's the kind that turns on the radio and is so upset about the top 100 songs on the radio, doesn't even want to listen to them, feels like songs don't sound like how they used to be. But in his second writing session, he's writing with a younger songwriter, and she quizzes him on the top 100 charts. She asks him if he knows who's on the top 10 for country, for pop, for R&B, because she believes even if they aren't his favorite songs personally, they still serve as valid points of inspiration for him if he wants to write a top charting song. I'm actually going to read the passage from the book because they put it better than I ever could. So the songwriter that Jake is working with, her name is Kate, so just keep that in mind. Think of your creativity as a contained well, like one in the ground, but this one, Kate tapped her chest, this one is inside, and it's finite, meaning it only contains what you put in. All the things that feed your creativity, they come from this well. All our experiences, the music we listen to, our lives growing up, our first love, our hurt, our pain, our first car, everything, it goes into the well. When we create, we pull from that well. We draw upon it, like we're getting buckets of water out. Or better yet, it's like a bank account, and we're making withdrawals, and we keep making withdrawals. When we experience, listen, learn, and consume, we fill the well. And it's incumbent upon us to ensure that our efforts to fill the well outpace our withdrawals. And Jake says, of course, your deposits have to exceed your withdrawals. Otherwise, you get overdrawn and there's nothing left. So basically what this passage is about is like, because everything is a remix, we consume a bunch of stuff and then change it up and put our own spin on it and add our own creativity to it. But you have to keep feeding your creativity in order for new things to come out. And I think sometimes when we get burnt out as creatives, it's because we're working on so much output and not getting a lot of input. But we have to make sure that we're continuing to consume sources of inspiration. As a writer, you cannot just write all day. You have to go live a life so that you have things to write about. And you have to continue living a life so that you continue having things to write about. As a content creator or a creative director, whatever you are, even an engineer, you have to continue living your life. You have to continue looking at beautiful, inspiring, or even ugly, uninspiring things in order to fuel your creativity. And for me, I feel like I've been focusing a lot on output in the last couple of months. And I remember times where I was, getting a lot of inspiration and how much it sparked my own creativity. And I want to focus in the next few weeks on balancing that out. Sometimes it actually is productive to binge a TV show or watch a bunch of movies or go out with your friends a couple times a week. For example, last week I binged All of the Boys, and the whole time I was feeling so guilty, like I just got hooked on the show and I couldn't stop. And then when I was working on something at work, I literally pulled an idea that I had from the show, and it didn't apply in any direct way, but I don't think that I would have thought of that idea if I hadn't watched that show. So I'm definitely gonna focus on my social life and just entertainment and enjoying things that are out there in the next few weeks and see what inspiration I get from it. Principle 3 is leaving your comfort zone or contrary action. This one is a little bit wild. Jake has a writing session with a few other writers out on a boat, and he ends up wearing like a Speedo thong bathing suit thing, and they write a really great song, but he was very uncomfortable. One, he was really uncomfortable to write on a boat. Like, what are we writing on a boat for? And then he was not used to wearing a swimsuit like that. But the whole point of it is that leaving your comfort zone is where you're going to get new ideas. For a songwriter, you're going to write new kinds of songs. And for anyone doing anything creative or even just thinking about your life or your career, you're going to think differently and act differently and therefore get different results. And what they say in the book is the easiest way to leave your comfort zone is to practice contrary action, which is really just whatever you normally do, consider doing the opposite. In my life, how I'm practicing contrary action is I'm switching up my morning routine. For the past 3 years, basically every morning I've done a sun salutation, meditated, and then prayed. And while I think that that routine has served me, I don't have to do the same thing every morning for the rest of my life just because I decided 3 years ago I was gonna do it. I don't know, I feel like for me, sometimes getting in a routine like that almost negates what you're doing, and maybe I will decide that I'm going to do those things every day again. But even taking a break and stepping back from it, I think will help me gain clarity if I want to continue doing that. But I think it's really just about breaking your own rules and seeing what happens, because it allows space for new things to come up. Maybe there's a new mindfulness routine that will come out of this. Maybe just doing things in a different order will change up my morning and change up my day. Another thing is, typically I script out all of my YouTube videos that are talking like this, and this time I didn't script the whole thing, I just did bullet points. And who knows, maybe the video might turn out terrible or I'll be rambling too much. But I think just switching up your creative process or your process for anything or any routines and practicing that contrary action. Maybe you see an event and usually you wouldn't go alone, but this time you do. These are the tiny little actions, the tiny choices that making a different one can have a whole different outcome for your life. Principle 4 is change your attitude. So in his 4th writing session, Jake is taken on a plane with this like millionaire guy who owns a bunch of planes. He takes him on this little, very old plane and does a lot of loop-de-loops, and there's a lot of screaming from Jake. But the whole point of the plane ride was to get Jake to understand that changing your attitude can really help you on a breakthrough. And they mean attitude in the, I guess, arrow sense. So altitude is how high or low you are, but attitude is the angle of the plane. And so basically the whole message is about changing your approach to something. Like I was just saying in my morning routine, maybe I always start my morning by stretching. But what if I started my morning by singing a song? Or dancing, or just doing something else? It could change my whole day. Or in my creative process for YouTube, usually I start with the script, but what if I started with the visuals first? Actually, that's a good idea, I might try that. And just see what kind of video comes out of it. It's bound to be different than the type of video that you're used to. And you don't have to do this all the time, but it's just if you're stuck, if you're approaching something the way you always do, and you're not really getting great results anymore, just try approaching it a different way. So in my life, where I'm feeling a little uninspired or stuck, I'm just trying to switch the order around of how I do things and see what happens. Principle 5 is daring to be stupid. Jake learns about this principle through a basketball game with the owner of the publishing company, who's this like billionaire baby genius, Daniel Smith Daniel. He's a really funny, interesting character. But in the basketball game, Daniel ends up winning with this ridiculous behind the back shot. And he explains to Jake the importance of not taking yourself or your work too seriously. Taking the reverence out of any creative process, or even your life to a certain extent, just frees you up to be able to do things that you might consider stupid or silly. Because often it's those stupid ideas or the ones that don't land that you have to get through in order to get to the one that actually does land. For me, you guys know that my channel blew up based on that one video, how YouTube changed my life. And it would be impossible for me 3 years ago to sit in my room and come up with that idea. I had to make every single YouTube video that I made before then, even if a lot of them sucked, in order to get to that video. And I think recently with YouTube, I felt like there was a bit more pressure, like I was taking my channel more seriously than I was before. And I really want to get back to just a lighthearted feeling and taking the reverence out of this process and just posting videos that I want to post. And even in the rest of my life too, I feel like I just want to not take things as seriously in my life right now and see what happens from it. And I feel like that last principle really solidifies everything else, because if I take my morning routine too seriously, then I'm gonna stick to it every day, and I'm not gonna want to change my approach to it or switch things up or have contrary action or do creative collaboration or fill the well by binge watching TV. But all of these things are necessary in order to continue living an inspired, creative, fulfilling life. So I'm having fun implementing these things so far. I feel like I'm enjoying things a lot more, and I'm really just gonna focus on implementing these 5 principles until December. And I feel like if I follow this by December, I'll have a better sense of what I actually want to do in 2024, and I'll be ready to plan then. If you guys would want to follow along and see what I do, or even do this with me, or want an update on how the process is going, I'm happy to make a follow-up video in like a month or whatever, and then in December we can plan together. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something helpful from it. Definitely read The Greatest Song. It's a short read and a really fun read. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.